Okay, Committee on Governmental Relations and Economic Development. Today is the 15th session. We're at Hawaii County Building. Today is February 4th, 2014. Time is 10:55 a.m. Please turn cell phone pagers and other mobile communication devices on silent mode. Call this meeting to order. Okay, introducing the members of the committee. To my far right is Mr. Ilagan, Mr. Kern, Mr. Kanuha, Ms. Eoff, Mr. Yoshimoto, Ms. Ford, Ms. Poindexter, Ms. Wille. How are you doing today? Good, that's great. And you have nice flowers right in front of you. Yes, even though it's not real. But, and she has it in water. Okay, but just for the record. Okay. Just to wait it down, yes. Okay, and then I'm Chair Onishi. Okay, so let's have statements from the public on the agenda, and just for the public's information, Kona is only audio and no visual, and then Ka'u going to be going in and out. And so let's see, Kona, do you have any testifiers?
Excuse me, Chair, I think we lost contact with Kona as well, so they're not going to be participating this morning.
Okay, and so is that okay?
That's fine, yes.
That's fine.
All members are here.
You have no testifiers?
We need to check and see, but all members are here so we can continue our meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so but can you just check to see if there's any testifiers in Kona?
I'll do that.
Okay, thank you. In Ka'u?
We have no testifiers here in Ka'u.
Okay, thank you. In Waimea?
Good morning, Chairman. No testifiers in Waimea presently.
Okay, thank you. And then in Pahoa?
Good morning, Mr. Chair. There are two testifiers here in Pahoa.
Okay, and then in Hilo we have two. And then, I'm not missing anyone, right? Ka'u. Oh, Kohala. Yeah, sorry, Dave. Kohala.
Good morning, Chair Onishi. We do not have any testifiers.
Okay, good. Okay, so why don't we start with Pahoa, and then you can have your two testifiers.
First, we have Joyce Folena representing herself in support of Resolution 272-14 and Communication 604. Following her will be Gregory Smith, also representing himself, and in support of the same resolution and communication.
Okay, you can go ahead and identify yourself.
My name is Joyce Folena, and I'm a resident of Pune District for 30 and a half years, approximately. I would like to thank Councilwoman Margaret Wille for putting forth Resolution 272. I absolutely support this resolution, and I think many of you understand and know from my previous testimony how I feel about genetically modified organism crops in the county of Hawaii. I'd like to see them all out of here. And I'm not going to pull any punches or try to soften what I think. I feel that state bills HB 2506 and SB 3058 thrown out of the state legislature. I feel that this resolution in its entirety, and I urge every council member and every interested member of the public to get a copy of this resolution and to read it in its entirety. The staff member just provided me with an electronic copy of this resolution. Councilmember Margaret Wille, being an attorney, understands the ins and the intricacies and I hope the simplicity of the legal language necessary to protect our public health and safety from the inroads and the toxicities and the pollution of genetically modified organism crops, genetic engineered crops, which do pollute our abilities to grow our own organic food, whether it's private, grown only for our own family, or whether we're growing commercially. So this resolution does what we want to happen here. It protects our public health and safety, which is your first responsibility. I won't go on and on about it, but I'm telling you, this is election year. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead with your next testifier, Pahua.
My name is Gregory T. Smith, resident of Puna, and I do support Reso 27214. And the point is that what this resolution does is protect our home rule. And I'm very grateful for Margaret Wille and anybody else who would support this. GMO, you know my stance on GMO. And the fact is that any public official, their first duty is for is for life, health, and the safety of the people, not to support some corporate entity. And the main factor is that we do have forces, big money, that is coming into our state government, have already perverted our state government in the fact that they will open the door with no protections to the people at the state level for, against the excesses of the GMO industry or any other industry, and geothermal for that matter. The whole point is that if you do not, as council people, uphold your power and authority, and in essence, keep our voice in our local affairs where we decide what we want to do on this island. The community does, not the state, and certainly not the federal government, who's in the pockets of big business and corporate entities. At the federal and state level, we've seen perversion of our laws, and we've seen perversion of laws that protect the people's health and their lives. We see this with fracking when in 2005 they lessened, they weakened the Clean Air, Clean Water, and Clean Drinking Water Acts. Also the fact too that, and now we have the same entities, the same exact people trying to muffle the voice of the people, force things down our throats that we don't want in our communities. And the fact of the matter is, we don't need another Kauai. You are our last defense on a legal basis, you, the council of Hawaii County, to keep insanity from happening in Hawaii County. And as far as the other resolution, that's a nice thing, but, I hope you pass that as well, but this is the one. Because if you do not uphold your authority here and our authority in Hawaii County as public, then you are going to, why do we need a council? Why do we even need a mayor or a county government if government is going to be ran from Honolulu? Oh.
Okay, thank you. Now we're coming to Hilo. Our first testifier is Cory Hardin, and she'll be, making comment on Resolution 272-14.
Good morning. Cory Hardin, supporting Resolution 272. Speaking for myself, I'd like to thank Margaret Wille for introducing this. And of course, it proposes a state bill regarding county authority to regulate GMOs and pesticides. And I think it's really good to be proactive on this, since the biotech companies have certainly been proactive in promoting their own interests. And they say they have eliminated local control of agriculture in over 20 states, and we don't want to be the next. Last year, biotechs tried in the state legislature to eliminate county jurisdiction over agriculture and health, and they tried to insulate biotechs from lawsuits for any harm they might cause to people and the environment. And they also tried to curtail state regulation of GMOs and pesticides. For one of their bills, they used a deceptive title and deceptive description. Resolution 272 will help provide a foundation for our island to be an arc for non-GMO, organic, and sustainable agriculture, and set us on a path for future food security and economic health. Thank you.
Okay. And our next testifier is Larry Gering, and he's making comment on 272-14.
Good morning, Council. Thank you for your time. Larry Gering, Hilo. I forgot to add to that I oppose 272-14 also. With all due respect to the previous testifiers, home rule is paramount. I believe in it. Hysterical rule is beyond disgrace. And that's what propels this council and other councils to be anti-GMO. There has never, ever, ever, in all the testimony we've heard, ever been any proof that GMO products are harmful to the individuals or that organic products have any better or any more nutritional value. Point. Period. If there was, it would have been brought to the front so they could yap about that. But it hasn't been brought to the forefront, so obviously there's no benefit to organic products. And to take this to the state legislature, which collectively is not a genius group of people anyhow. They have several bright spots. I applaud our county representatives for taking the GMO issue on to the state legislature, but whatever they do at the state legislature, they're not all on the same page anyhow. There's simply no safety issue with GMO products. It cannot cross-pollinate anything other than, it cannot cross-pollinate, period. And that's been proven beyond and beyond and beyond. So I really don't think this bill, or this proposed regulation, has any meaning, any bearing whatsoever. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, and our last testifier is Fernando Salas, and he's in support of Resolution 272-14.
Aloha, Council.
Oh, you just turned it off. Okay.
Aloha, Council. Good morning.
Can you introduce yourself? You can.
My name is Fernando
Can-
Salas,
There you go. Okay, come closer.
and I'm here in support of Margaret Wille's resolution. You know, thank you, Margaret, again. Very impressed. And I like to say, you know, the state and the county, we have the same constituents. You know, also in regards to safety, you know, I like to bring this to your attention. You know, I mean, right now in Brazil, these legislatures, they've been bought by these biotech corporations. They pay them $1 million to enforce their 1-year suicidal cease so they can be sold in Brazil. Been getting this information from very respectful people, you know, very respectful people. I mean, they, another of the really issues is the monopoly. You know, they want to monopoly this control, you know, liberty and life, you know, for the people. And it's, another excuse they have is that they're not hurting anybody, they're not harming anybody, you know. Well, and that they either then they haven't managed to prove that they're not causing any harm. They haven't done any human testing with a lot of other GMO, genetically modified products. So I'd like to remind you as a council member to consider, you know, to work with Margaret. You know, the county, you know, especially here in Hawaii, is unaware of all this stuff that these corporations are hiding from the people. You know, just in Hamakua alone, you know, there is this, like the dairy, for example, Island Dairy, they have landfills of rubbish, dead cows, they bury them, you know. There's just hundreds and hundreds for how many years they've been doing this, you know. I mean, and people is not aware of this. The biotech corporations, these corporations, they don't care about the health of the community, you know. And if you take a little bit more seriously, you know, you go down to the community and meet a lot of the community people is sick.
Can you summarize, please?
You know, so, and summarizing this, you know, I think that the county, you know, should be aware and be told of what's going on and educated about it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at any of the other locations, is there anybody else that wants to testify?
Did they check with
Oh,
Comm?
Chair Onishi, we have audio back with Kona, and there are no testifiers in Kona.
Okay, Kona, can you hear me?
They can hear 'em.
Yes, I can.
Okay,
No
good.
testifiers in Kona.
Okay, thank you. Okay, here it is,
Thank
see none
you.
here. Okay, Mr. Clerk, can you read communication 10.13?
Communication 10.13, Hawaii State Association of Counties, December 23rd, 2013, Executive Committee Meeting Minutes from Councilmember Dennis Fresh Onishi dated January 9th, 2014.
Okay, can I have a motion to close and file communication 10.13?
So moved. Second.
Okay, but don't fight over for second now. Don't get too excited. Okay, motion by Mr. Kanoa, second by Mr. Kern. Okay, any discussion? Yes, Ms. Ford.
Thank you. I have a question on page 4, the top of the page, first sentence. It said, President Raposo discussed his proposal for scholarships and executive travel. This is for raising the fees, I understand, or getting money from NACO prescription drug.
Correct.
Okay. I'm having some concerns about this. We as a county are signed up with the prescription discount program, which is great because we passed that a couple of years ago. And we are now reaping the benefits of getting this money. You know, I'm very much a proponent of education and higher education for as many people who want to obtain that. But I don't think this is an appropriate source of revenue for scholarships. I would much rather see this money used in a way that helps reduce costs for prescription medicine. I don't know how that would happen, but to me, scholarships is just not the appropriate way to use this money. That's just my opinion. And for executive committee travel, I would love to hear a little bit more about this, but I don't particularly want to see this money used for executive committee travel. We're making this money because we are using a very good program to help people lower their prescription costs, and I would like to see this money stay more in a medical, pharmaceutical type use, rather than to pay for someone to travel any place for any reason, or to provide scholarships. I do not think that's a reasonable use of this money. I just wanted to put that on the record. Thank you.
Okay. Any other discussions, Mr. Ilagan?
Thank you, Chair. I do want to say I support Councilmember Onishi's proposal of establishing a scholarship fund for $14,000 per year for students enrolled at the Daniel K. Inouye College of Pharmacy. It's in the same field, and I feel like this will help out the cost of tuition that's burdened upon the next generation. And I just wanted to voice my support of this proposal.
Thank you. Any other discussions? Okay, I just want to make a comment. Yes, we did have the discussion, and I did suggest to the members that, you know, to me, because we get maybe like close to like I think 12,000 or 14,000 per year. Okay, so it's like 100,000 something every, I think like every month or every quarter or something like that. But what happened and what we found out with the breakdown was that Oahu brought in most of the share from the prescription drugs, the benefits that we're getting from this the funding that we're getting. They bring in like about maybe, I would say, it's maybe close to 60 to 70% of that first. Big Island came in second, and we bring in like about 15 or 20%. And then Oahu and Maui was like in the single digits. So the proposal was that Maui and Kauai needs to go out more into the communities to get more of their citizens, their residents, to sign up into this program. And so the discussion was, what are we going to do with this money? And what I wanted to see was not go into any administrative expenses, but to go back into the community. And that's why my suggestion was to have it go to the pharmacy school. But then at the last discussion, I think it was at not the last meeting, but the meeting before that, I think the discussion was to go into any related medical fields. So that's still on discussion. So, as I encourage council members that if you folks can, please attend the executive meeting so you guys can give your comments, or even like a written testimony to the committee, so that way we can also, I guess, bring up those suggestions. Okay. So, yeah, Ms. Ford.
I just have a different opinion, so that, that's no problem with that. I do want to talk about how to spread this program. When this program was first passed by a former previous council, was it a second or third term? Second term for Jay and I. One of the things that I did, and I'm going to suggest this to the other council members, is we went to every single elementary school and middle school, talked to the principal. In elementary schools, a lot of them send home a weekly notice to the parents, like Thursdays. The kids go home with their little envelope information from the school. We said we will provide all of the cards, the little sign-up cards, and we'll put in a little one-page flyer explaining this program. And we did it in English and we did it in Spanish. And we covered everything in Kona and everything in Ka'u. I don't know the results of that. There's no way for me to tell that this is all coming from my area. But one of the things that you can consider in your area is making contact with your schools and getting, especially elementary school, and getting this sent home to the families in an appropriate language. The schools know which kids come from Spanish speaking and whatever. And that's the only two languages we could get translations for. Not that we need translation for English, but I mean, Spanish was the only one. We couldn't get Marshallese translations or Japanese translations. But it is a way to reach out into your community and provide this information, and it might up the percentage that we have in the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ilagan.
Thank you, Chair. May I ask a question to Councilmember Ford?
Sure.
What was the expense for that total outreach?
It was actually pretty minimal. My portion of it was that we copied the little flyers and in our office. I think we used 3 reams of paper, about 1,500 pieces of paper, and and it was a public service thing. It wasn't a Brenda Ford thing, because I even went into North Kona and did well, I was 7, but I did 8 at that time, and then I did 6, which was not my district either. So the toughest thing was getting the translations, but I have them. I already have. Oh, yeah, I've got the translations still. So about 3 reams of paper is what it took me. So the cost was to the county, I don't know, what is it, maybe a penny or 2 a page. So,
It's very minimal.
It's very, very minimal. And we provided the little stand-up things that sit on the counters with the cards in them to each one of the schools as well. Those were free because we ordered them from NACO.
Councilmember Onishi, is there a possibility to make a proposal where each county would receive around $2,000 to $5,000 for outreach services?
I think we could, yes.
So that way we have this amount of funds to use for each county, and they can decide exactly how to spend it regarding their outreach.
Okay. Well, what I can suggest is that you can write up a proposal, and our next meeting at HSAC, I can bring that up, or if you want to, you can come along and you can do the proposal.
How about if I just come along?
Yeah, I mean, that'd be great, yes. That's why I said so. That's why I always invite council members to come to the meetings. Yeah. to give your,
I'll be there on the
no.
next one.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing or seeing none, I'm gonna do a voice vote. All those in favor of closing and filing communication 10.3, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? 9-0. Mr. Clerk, communication 10.14.
Communication 10.14, Hawaii State Association of Counties, December 13, 2013, Special Executive Committee Meeting Minutes from Councilmember Dennis Fresh Onishi dated January 10, 2014.
We have a motion to close and file communication 10.14.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Mr. Kern, second by Mr. Ilagan. Any discussion? Ms. Willie?
Yes, I wanted to ask you about the discussion on the TAT. I see that it says here that it was our Mayor Kanoy that was not agreeable to the proposed HSAC package legislation that would have ended the current cap on the Transit Accommodation Tax. And is that first correct?
No.
I mean, that's
no.
what it says here. It says,
Okay, what page are you looking at?
I'm looking on page 2. Treasurer, as you know, this was a big priority here, and then it was dropped from the package. It says on page 2, Treasurer Victorino noted there was no TAT proposal from the mayors. Mr. Dayton responded that items proposed by the Hawaii County of mayors only included measures where all 4 mayors agreed. He stated that Mayor Kanoy did not believe changes to the TAT should be proposed at this time. And then it goes on and says that Council Member Kagawa, I'm not sure where they're from.
That's from Kauai.
Asked for clarification that HCOM did not support ending current levels of TAT revenue to the counties. And Mr. Dayton, in other words from Mayor Kanoy's office, clarified that HCOM had viewed the GT as a tool for the counties to deal with their budget, in addition to the current TAT funding. So it was Mayor, I hadn't realized that it was Mayor Kanoy that, that's what it says here. So I'm just concerned, several years ago, I testified with Mayor Kanoy on this, that we needed to, when the legislature said they were going to put a cap on here while the economy was low, and then remove that cap when the economy got better, and clearly that's not happening. And I do know we have something coming up, I think it's tomorrow, that on you have a resolution on the TAT, but I'm just reading this, I didn't realize that our county was the one that was the stop on that, removing the TAT cap to revenues coming to the county.
Okay, before I, and that's, are you finished?
Yeah, so I'm asking you.
Okay, so you're gonna answer, okay. Because I was gonna ask if there's any other comments among you guys first, and then I was gonna answer for them. Okay, so I'll just answer, okay. It's not just our mayor, it was, like they say, HCOM, okay, and the HCOM's proposal was to keep the TAT status quo, okay, because they felt that if we go back to the legislature, like how we did in the past, where, you know, the council or the administration would go and ask for more money, would get shut down. So they wanted to keep it as is, keep it as status quo, like the 93 million, and then, but also coming in with an option where we could get at least the authority to get the GAT, that 0.5% to the 1%. So that was the proposal.
Okay. I mean, I'll keep this short, but I just didn't realize that I assumed it was some other county that had blocked this. I mean, we listened to legislator after legislator here in our community say, we're imposing it now, but the cap will be removed. And anyway, I'm just concerned both substantively and then trying to get clarification on what it says here. I don't want our mayor being blamed if he really didn't take that position. So.
And I can see, so there was agreement among the mayors that they're not gonna touch the TAT. It's not one of the proposals that they were gonna go to the legislature.
Right. in reading this, it would appear from the questions, if you go through these, that it was, or, anyway.
Well,
Thank you.
I think too, the mayor, our mayor is like the head of HCOM. Okay, so it's like, I guess not like a president, but he's like the leader, and then you have the chairman or something you could call that. Okay, go ahead, Mr. Pinwell.
Thank you, Mr. Onishi. Later on in the paragraphs, it reads that, you know, somebody asked for more clarification on the subject, and Mayor Caldwell explained that HCOM members did not have a single unified proposal for the TAT, and thus agreed to remain silent on the issue this legislative session. So,
So, yeah, so if
they weren't unified in it, which they couldn't all agree to. So,
okay, Ms. Ford? Oh, Ms. Are you finished, Ms. Wood?
I don't want to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
Okay. I have a question for Mr. Onishi. Are the other representatives to HSAC from the other counties going back to their councils and saying, what is your stand on this particular proposal for the GET for an approval of a potential up to 1%? Not whether it's going to be, for the public's benefit, this would be to allow the counties to increase the GET by up to 1%, but it doesn't legislate that they have to.
Right.
Okay, okay, just so we're all on the same page. Are the other councils having discussions about whether those councils support the mayor's recommendation for this up to 1%? Because we, as a council, really haven't had that discussion. Certainly not to any depth. There hasn't anything been brought forward to us as a council to say, well, what do we think? Are we going to weigh in on this? Do we think this is a good thing? I'm not saying I'm still neutral on this issue. I really am. But we have not had any discussion of what we think our communities are interested in doing. Because there's a lot of talk about this being a very regressive tax if it were to be imposed by each respective county or any respective county. So are the other islands councils having discussions about this proposal?
You know, I think Kauai is going to be doing something, but then I know we did have one with your communication, which we did at the last meeting about the discussion about GAT. And I explained to everyone why the executive committee did that, and it was because of the time constraints that we had. Like Honolulu, they meet once a month. So by the time the council, I'm just explaining what's happening, but why this discussion wasn't given out to the councils first and then coming back to the executive was because like Honolulu, Oahu, they meet once a month, and by the time everybody got the approval, the session would be over.
Okay, Mr. Onishi, I totally understand the protocol of how that works. Don't even have a problem with that. The question is, we still haven't really come back to this council and said, what do we as a collective body think about this?
Well, I think at our last meeting, we had that discussion.
Well, it seemed to me that it was kind of minimal discussion because it was basically, can HSAC do this thing? And of course they can.
Right.
That's the protocol. To me, it was more of a discussion of the protocol and not necessarily the discussion of, for the council, now that it's done, are we as a council going to support that? Because what do our communities want? Because I'm hearing from my communities and they're saying, no way. So I just think that maybe we need to discuss that more on just that issue. Not the protocol of getting it into HSAC, but what our constituents are looking for.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Ford? No, sorry, Ms. Poindexter?
Okay. I think the reason why we chose not to discuss the GE was because if it should pass and come before the council at some point, we're talking about the sunshine violations, that if we start discussing it, if something would come up at a later time through legislation, then we'd be putting ourselves in a potential sunshine violation, because we'd be discussing the issue, because it's not before the council at this point yet. So I think we were erring on the side of caution. And I think if we go back and look at the minutes from that meeting, I basically, during my committee, I did make that statement for us to be cautious about that. And thank you.
Ms. Woody?
Yeah, I attended the meeting where the Council of Mayors and the 4 mayors presented this issue to the state legislators. And Sylvia Luke was, Representative Sylvia Luke was chairing that meeting, and she raised the same point that Ms. Ford and I have raised about the GT is, shouldn't you be going back to your councils and hearing the voice, which is not just the councils, it enables the people and the community to raise their voice. And why were the mayors putting the state legislators on the spot to address this tax when it hadn't gone to the council? So we all may have different opinions as to what the process should be. I certainly agreed with Representative Luke and the several others who raised the same point, that many people don't differentiate between the right to impose a tax and the imposition of that tax, and it's just a sliding scale. So really, and not just for me or Ms. Ford or all of us, but allowing our constituents to sort of understand the issue and weigh in. And I do think we really, regardless of what Honolulu's, and they've got one meeting a month and that, feel that it's for us to bring to the people. So, I regret that hasn't been done, and perhaps we can still do that and get something out there. So, whether it was me or my fellow council member Onishi, I think it would be a good to bring up and allow for discussion among the county. I'm not sure. I don't fully understand the sunshine issue, this Poindexter, but anyway, just if there's a way to do it properly, I'm not trying to do anything improperly. But I do think those concerns, if this goes forward just on the state level and we haven't, open it up where people aren't, my whole thing is I don't want an ocean between our constituents and the layer of government that's making the decision. So that's just my concern. I'm not trying to be critical of how it did happen or what happened, but I still think, and perhaps I'll go ahead and submit something so that we can discuss it.
Okay, it's Poindexter.
Yeah, and because I saw it, the reason why is I saw it as two separate issues. We weren't saying the raising of the GE tax wasn't before us. It was if the state could give the counties the right to be able to address that if need be, or should the counties not have that authority, and we would have to go to the state to say if we would be in an emergency situation and have to handle something, we would have to go to the state to get approval to try to move forward in something like that. This was just if the state would give us home rule, basically. It wasn't addressing the issue of raising taxes at this point. It was just a home rule issue. So there's two separate things that is getting mixed, and I'm afraid the public is perceiving this to be we're going to raise taxes, and which is not. It's a bad perception, and I think that needs to be cleared up. So thank you.
Ms. Ford?
Thank you. Let me try to re-clarify my concern. I'm not interested in challenging the protocol of HSAC. I don't think you guys did anything wrong. I don't think the Council of Mayors did anything wrong. They have the right to send a package to the legislature. My only concern is whether or not we as a council should discuss this on an agendized item so there is no sunshine law violation. Not that I thought there was one the other day, there wasn't. But my question was merely, are the other councils agendizing this issue before their council so that they can have the public discussion that Margaret and I are both talking about. That's all I want to know. Are the other councils doing it?
And like I said, I think Kauai is, and that's it. And any other comments? Okay, so I'm gonna close just to clarify what Ms. Wille is mentioning about, Representative Luke had mentioned about, and that it's that she had gotten some testimony from council members on Kauai opposing the GAT. And that's why she was concerned that did the councils know about it? Okay, so when I got to meet with her the day after that meeting that they had, or 2 days after the opening session, I explained to her that everybody, I think, got these testimonies from the council members concerning about the GAT, and then they also mentioned about the TAT, like increasing. But like I mentioned in the past, to clarify again to Ms. Wille, the Kauai Council voted down the TAT proposal in the HSAC. So that's where I don't understand that they, didn't want the TAT to be increased, and then now they're going to the legislature and say, okay, we're not agreeing with the GAT, but we want the TAT again. So that's where the confusion is, and that's why I wanted to make it clear to Representative Luke when I met with her, is that to explain that, because we all got that testimony from the council members in Kauai and saying that they were really opposed to that, and so that's why she brought up that concern. So just to kind of clarify, to make it you understand what is going on. Okay, so you're welcome. Okay, so any other discussions? Okay, hearing or seeing none. All those in favor of closing communication 10.14, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, 9-0, the communication 10.14 is filed. Okay, Mr. Clerk, resolution 272-14.
Resolution 272-14 proposes a state bill relating to the county's authority to regulate the cultivation and development of genetically engineered crops and plants and associated pesticides. Requests the state legislature to pass a bill attached as Exhibit A that would provide the county's greater authority over agricultural matters. Reference Communication 604, introduced by Ms. Wille.
Ms. Wille?
Yes, so moved.
Second.
Okay, motion by Ms. Wille, second by Ms. Ford. Okay, Ms. Wille, go ahead.
Let me take this on a couple different layers. I think there was testimony in terms of GMO agriculture, but foremost, this is there is state legislation, there was last year that did not pass, and again this year, basically gutting a portion of our county jurisdiction. So that when you look at this, look at it not just whether you're pro-GMO, anti-GMO, but I think it's also important to look at it in terms of the bigger picture. Last year, one of the other areas where there was state legislation that was removing county jurisdiction, it had to do with the shoreline management area and the county input in that, and I did go and testify, and I did manage on that committee. They then voted against it. So I just want everyone to keep in mind that we have got a couple different layers going on here. And what this is, what my resolution goes through is in the context of the Right to Farm Act. And I figured out that this is where they were going to work on or it seemed a logical place, that the state legislators that opposed the Kauai or the Hawaii bill would seek to undermine what we had done in our counties. So even today, there is SB, I mentioned, I sort of go through the history about this. Even today, 245 today, there's SB 110, which was only given notice as of last night. It would come up, and basically it would make it so that there could be no law passed by any local government that would abridge any right of farmers, ranchers to employ any agricultural technology, etc., that's not prohibited by federal or state law. So currently, our jurisdiction under 46-5, I guess it is, or 1.5, we can make ordinances or rules with respect to health, life, or you could say well-being of the people, and property. In the context, so we have the right here dealing with our health of our constituents as well as property. I saw my bill as largely a property protecting people's right to, if you're non-GMO, that you can, that your land's not going to be contaminated, that we're addressing those issues in a deliberate way. So that's really what's going on here. There's several other bills coming forward. This one, 110, popped up. It was what's called a blank bill. It just said for economic or, well, whatever, relating to agriculture. And then yesterday, the content was slid in, and the hearing's happening today, and there's no oral testimony being permitted. And what I just want to say, and this is somewhat similar to what happened last year with that SB 747. I think, as Cory said, is that basically the biotech industry, and they're just doing what's for their bottom line. I mean, they're doing for their corporate entity is to remove county jurisdiction. As they said, local governments interfere with their corporate policies. So the Right to Farm Act was enacted to protect agriculture from the encroachment of urbanization. I have maybe 25, 30 pages of all the legislative history on that. There's nothing in there about sort of chemical industry testing and protecting them. And it's all protecting against nuisance suits. So by passing this, you eliminate the ability of anyone to challenge anything that's being done, quote unquote, as agriculture, that would, no matter how legitimate that concern is. And we're basically then exempting ourselves, turning it over to the state, which has no regulation of GMOs. But just on a final note, I just want to come back to that this could be same thing going on in other contexts, that once we sort of say, okay, you can have jurisdiction, eliminate our jurisdiction in this area, it could be something else later. I did pass out an amendment, and I also passed out something, let me just say, Mr. Gering, from the Salt Institute, just sort of reinforcing the great concern of many scientists in terms of the harm in this area, so I refer him to Communication 604.2. So that's where I'm at. I think it's important to recognize there's several different layers going on here, both the immediate of what's here and the overall, how do we all approach our preserving our jurisdiction under the state law. This would remove that. Thank you, I yield.
Mr. Kern?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think this, to me, this resolution is less about GMO and it is more to me about home rule. I feel it's critically important to have home rule regardless of anyone's stance on the GMO issue. Home rule is the only way that we're going to keep things in check and in alignment for the people of our island here. And we're here on the ground, and we're trying our very best, and we need our tools in the toolbox to be able to do that. I hope that many of the state legislators will listen. I find it kind of challenging that we're asking them for the home rule, you know what I mean? And it's taking away the power that they would want. So I really hope that they do listen and see that it'll be a benefit to even them that we have that ability. So I'll support this, based on the premise that it's really about home rule for me. And, with that, thank you.
Good support.
Thank you. Ditto on everything Mr. Kern said. Okay. What the original bill resolution that Margaret put before us, on page 2, at the top of the page, says that the Senate Bill 727 wants to strike out of the HRS that the county shall have the right to protect life and health. And that is the very nature of what municipal governments are charged with doing, is protecting health and life. And of course, the state, not all of them, those in the state who are on one side of the GMO issue want to strip this away from the county. I don't even know if that's legal to do. I think it would be, my opinion, subject to a judicial challenge, and I think they'd lose. But that's an opinion, not legal advice, because I can't give any of that. So basically, Margaret's bill is just saying we want our home rule to be retained. She had an amendment, which she hasn't discussed yet. Margaret, you haven't discussed your amendment yet, so I'm just nudging you a little bit when we get off the home rule issue that maybe we need to deal with the amendment. Thank you.
Before I go to any other council member for see off, I'm gonna have Ms. Wille to do the amendment on communication 604.1. So that way we can discuss the amendment and then we can go back to the main motion once we vote on that.
Okay. Can I ask you a quick question? Can I state what the amendment is, or do I just move to amend?
Move to amend first and then you can
Okay.
discuss.
I move to amend resolution 272 is it?
Dash four.
-14 with communication 604.1.
Second.
Okay, second by Ms. Ford. Okay, go ahead with the,
Just explain.
what's the amendment about?
Okay, what the amendment's about is, in my original resolution, I had said that the council believes it's important to take a proactive stance in the face of possible state legislation that would undermine the county's existing authority. And since I wrote that, the resolution, the state has already, legislators have introduced, both on the House side and the Senate side, legislation that would eliminate our county level authority with regard to basically anything that had to do with agriculture and testing. So I just wanted to clarify that it's already been introduced, and in fact pointing out that there's a hearing that I don't know how they can do it, but it's even prohibiting any oral testimony. So can I say a little more? Or
no, go ahead.
Okay, so I just think, I think that, again, I want to just point out that a number of other bills came up, not just with respect to the GMO issue last year, and I did go and testify on those, that whole 46.5, yeah, and that it's important this legislation is going on right now. And let me just say, people have talked to some of the sponsors, and
Point of order, you should be on the amendment. If you vote on it, then you can get back to the bill.
Okay, thank you, I think I've made it clear.
Okay, so any other discussion on the amendment? Okay, so let's have a voice vote. All those in favor of amending resolution 272-14 with the contents of communication 604-.1, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, so now we're to the main motion. Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Oh,
Mike.
yeah, your mic.
Okay. Let me just say, farmers is sort of a magic word here, and we all want to help our farmers, and ag is like our big, as chair of agriculture. And things get sometimes put into black and white issues, or looking that way, and a lot of the legislators who were approached to sponsor some of these bills, they were told, oh, here, will help our farmers, we got to be supportive of our farmers. Oh, fine, I'll sign that. That was the extent of, at least I know of one specific conversation. It's not like everyone's there looking at what's happening in GMO or what's happening there, but at the same time, it's you're putting a certain group above the law. Not only are you taking away our authority, you're taking away anyone that's quote unquote an ag operation. I actually question in Kauai, where you have these test sites where they give 100 by
Excuse me,
100.
Ms. Willie,
Yeah.
if, can, you
Stay
hold up on
as
yours?
close to-
No, but then I have Ms. Eoff, we
Okay,
never talked
go
about the
ahead.
bill yet, but
Okay,
then you still.
I'll finish my sentence. I'm just saying, want to just say on the word farmers, what is a farmer? Agrochemical. You lease out, people send in a proposal and do a chemical study of some GMO on 100 by 100 acre, and that's farming. So you have these huge areas of people that become above the law and knocking our jurisdiction out, sort of leaves everyone without anyone reviewing what's going on. Okay, thank you.
Ms. Eoff.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With regard to the intent of this bill and resolution, there seems to be a growing attack on the home rule, county's home rule, especially with regards to the regulation of ag and pesticide use brewing. So I wanted to thank Ms. Willie for trying to address that here, but I have a question. How will this work? I mean, if we were to send, do you have an introducer already lined up? How does this bill come
Okay,
to the
and I'm
floor?
glad you brought that up, because basically, this is a policy statement, okay? Basically, this is a policy statement. I tried to get this on an agenda earlier, and it wasn't waived, and contrary to how I read the rules, it wasn't put on the agenda earlier. But it basically is a statement, and it's a statement relevant to pending state legislation. There are 3 bills right now that are up that are basically exactly on point to this, and that this is countering. So in terms of what I would like to see done here, okay, is like SB 110, is that bill be amended with the contents of what is in my bill. And my bill is basically saying, clarifying what the purpose of the Right to Farm Act is. But I don't have, it's past the point where new legislation is coming up. So that if they hadn't introduced any bills that were on point to the right to farm, this would be pretty much a nullity. But I figured that was logically what they were going to do. And so this is a counter statement to, if you read each of those, the other state bills that have been introduced. It won't be legislation and signed in on this. It'll be our county saying, we don't think it's appropriate for you to undermine our home rule in this context of the Right to Farm Act.
Ms. Eoff.
So then do we send it in the form of a resolution to the state legislature?
My understanding from talking to legislators there is that this is fine. It gets the intent. It's what is our intent and what is our position, a position statement.
Thank you, Ms. Willie.
Ms. Ford?
All right, I see this, first of all, I support your resolution and with its amendment. There are actually 3 things that I think this resolution does. It basically says that one group of people or one group of companies are not above the laws that we institute to protect our citizens. That's number 1. Secondly, it says we are entitled to home rule, and certainly we're entitled to home rule on the subject of protecting health and life, which they're trying to strip out. So those are the 3 things I think this resolution says, and I think it's important that the state legislature understand that. They're not getting it. At least some of them aren't getting it. So, Margaret, I think this is a great bill, reso and an amendment, and I'll support you. Thanks.
Mr. Yoshimoto?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just trying to figure out what this actually does. Okay, so Margaret, you've tried to explain. I think Ms. Ford tried to paraphrase some of what this would accomplish, I guess, right? So Margaret, you're attaching an exhibit here, and so this is an existing section of HRS that you're looking to add language. Is that what you're trying to do?
Yes, I was trying to add language to HRS section 165-1, which would clarify what the intent of the existing Right to Farm Act is.
And then, okay, so that's clear. But then how does that amendment affect the rest of the statute as far as implementation? Does it change does it conflict or is it consistent? Like maybe a simple question.
In other words, what I saw happening last year was promoting that the right to farm protects, I mean, this was all going on in Kauai, the right to do all the testing of the seed there, and that no neighbor or individual or school or anyone could bring any kind of nuisance lawsuit, could challenge anything that they were doing. And so I wanted to clarify what the intent and what was understood by the existing law.
Okay.
What they're doing now is instead of doing what I wrote here, is to say, and this includes eliminating county jurisdiction to have any say-so.
That's SB 110 that you mentioned?
Yes, and
what are the other two bills you mentioned?
The other two bills, and SB 110 is basically taking, I think it's 3056. I'll come back and give you the correct.
Oh, I'm just curious. Okay.
Yeah, so there's a House bill.
You have the HB number?
And I have the HB number, and I'm just going to look it so I make sure I don't give you the wrong one. And a Senate bill, I think it's 3056. And
okay.
Let me just, before I give you the number.
Why don't you look that up, and I'll just make my comments, and then
yes, that sounds good.
Okay. Council members, whenever we try, and when I say try, because that's really what what we can do on a county level, we try and persuade the state to give us as much authority as possible. I mean, this has been an age-old dilemma or situation or relationship that goes back to the beginning of statehood in terms of where we get our powers from. As all of us know, we get our powers from the state, and so we're pretty much trying to work together, and yet at the same time, we need to basically follow what the state does in many of the issues. So similar to TAT, other issues, GMO. I mean, we're always trying to get home rule. So I support that because I think as far as levels of government, clearly we are the closest to the people. And I'll still never forget the words that one of the testifiers mentioned to us, and that we're the lowest form of government that there is. And oh, okay. Well, Brenda paraphrased it better, closest to the people. But I remember it as lowest form, and he didn't mean it as an insult. He meant it as a compliment. That person, and but essentially that's true. I mean, we're very accessible. We're here year round, and it's not hard to find us. And so, in terms of home rule, certainly we want home rule. One of the difficulties that we find in this issue, as well as many of the other issues, is being able to establish a good communication, good relationship with the state, as well as maybe even the federal government on issues that affect us. Because when you look at it big picture wise, all of the counties are separate. We're on different islands. It's clear, and we have at the same time we're very similar. We have state regulations, federal regulations, and we as a council, I think we're the best ones to make decisions that affect our local government. And so what I'm trying to say in a kind of a roundabout, I'll be more concise right now, is we need to but we need to try and work together with the state, to have them at the table with us to share in the problem solving. Because right now it kind of feels like we're separate, even though we're together. And so, in passing this resolution sends the right message that we want to continue to work with the state, but this is how we feel, that we want our voices heard, then that's the right message. But if we're saying we want, everything at the table, then that's the wrong message. So I just want to make sure that if the purpose is the first statement that I made, then I'm all for it. Just that the practical reality is that in terms of leverage, we're it. The council, the people. I mean, that's the leverage that we have. I mean, so if all of our citizens, were to contact our state legislators and emphasize this fact, that would certainly help. But then really, at the end of the day, the state has the final ability to make decisions, on state legislation that affect the county. So I just want to make sure that, from a leadership standpoint, that we send the right message. So, Ms. Wille, I think you're nodding, understanding what I'm trying to say. So that is the approach, then I can support that.
Yes, and let me just respond to that and give him these numbers. And I totally agree with that, and I know even reflecting on the federal to state level, these same issues kind of go on. And I think one of the points that Obama made in a proclamation is what we're doing on the federal is a floor, not a ceiling. We're not trying to eliminate the nuances of, I mean, specifically mentioned not just state but local government, and that variation is important. And I think in response to you, I think Donna Kim has responded to concern about these bills, and what she was a former council member. I think that one of the disadvantages here is we don't have any state legislators from our island that were on local government level. And I think it's really bringing where you have concurrent jurisdiction, which is what we have. We're not trying to say, you all don't have jurisdiction. We're just saying, don't, eliminate, even where you don't do anything, eliminate, not allow us to do so. So I agree with you, and I think that the more we can bridge that, the better, and I think that this is, we're bringing these things to a fore. And let me just say, it's SB 3058 and House Bill 2506, and then SB 110 that just came into existence basically yesterday is sort of the heart of what both of SB 3058. So I think that we do need, there is a second chapter, Jay, that needs to go on, is how we work in terms of cooperation, and I'm actually working right now with the university on some issues that we might do certain program to some of these issues, so thank you.
Okay, any other discussions? Okay, here you don't see none. Mr. Clerk, let's do a roll call on this one.
Ms. Zia?
Aye.
Ms. Ford?
Aye.
Mr. Ilagan?
No.
Mr. Kanuha?
Aye.
Mr. Kern?
Absent.
Ms. Poindexter?
Aye.
Ms. Wille?
Aye.
Mr. Yoshimoto?
Aye.
Chair Onishi?
No.
Chair Onishi, you have 6 ayes, 2 noes, and 1 absent.
Resolution 272-14 moves up to the council with positive recommendation. Okay, Mr. Clerk, resolution 277-14.
Resolution 277-14 urges the State Department of Transportation to provide matching funds for the planning, design, and construction of a parking lot and a student drop-off pickup facility at Honoka'a Elementary School. The proposed facility would provide additional parking and improved access to the school. The facility would have a covered sidewalk for students and be shared with Honoka'a Park. Reference Communication 617, introduced by Ms. Poindexter.
Ms. Poindexter?
Motion to approve resolution 277-14.
Second by Ms. Wille. Ms. Poindexter, go ahead.
Yes. It was sometime back last year in June or July that I met with Representative Mark Nakashima because there were some concerns from our community as far as the parking area or the roadway near our Parks and Recreation complex in Honoka'a, where there's a gym, 2 baseball fields, and track and field and soccer field. Now we're having a skate park there as well, and a new playground. Already we were strapped with parking, and anytime there was activities at a ball field or in the gym, the parking was, people are parking alongside the roadway because there's not sufficient parking. So we looked at partnering and making this work for the school as well, because Honoka'a School, there is one drop-off area which is on Pakalana Street, I believe. And I drove there many mornings and many afternoons bringing my granddaughter to school, and it's very scary because all of the cars, the drop-off point for the Honoka'a Elementary and the high school, and the buses and regular just cars and kids are all over the road, and every time I would drive up there, I'd cringe because I just was worried about if I'm gonna hit someone or a kid runs across, you never know what's gonna happen. And it was unfortunate that they didn't have any crossing guards at one point already in December or any traffic control going on. So that area was an accident waiting to happen. And unfortunately, in early December, a student got run over and was airlifted to Queens Medical Center on Oahu. And that's what we were trying to prevent when we started meeting, because that was our ultimate goal, is how do we address our, already our general plan, county general plan, and the Hamakua Community Development Plan, which was working on that area. So working on it with a partnership, we actually benefit on both sides, because the school would benefit, the families and children would, it's a safer area because the drop-off points would be different. And for our complexes, you know, our complex, the Honoka Gym and the parks, that would give us more parking, a safer place, more cars to get up there. Right now, you know, a lot of cars cannot make it up there because the road is so damaged, but yet people are trying to park all in different areas there. So I want to bring up Mr. Ron Thiel, and he's with our traffic division, because he was very much a part of all our meetings also last year. So Ron, can you just come up and explain what we did? And if you can, on the map, you know the green map that we have here, do you have a copy of this? If you can explain from which is going up, do you have an exhibit?
Mr. Clerk, can you provide?
Did the staff give him a copy?
He actually drew this.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So he's gonna be, it's gonna be real easy for him to.
Jeanette's bringing it.
Explain it.
I'm Ron Thiel, Chief of the Traffic Division.
With a new look.
Thank you. When I became Chief of the Traffic Division in 2005, one of the first things I noticed on this island from a traffic point of view was all the congestions around these schools. During the holidays and summers, the congestion is nearly is much less than it is during the school periods. And I started a personal program to address the school congestion based on my experience that I gathered when I was up in Alaska working with the schools. And the first site was in Waimea. We were able to change the traffic pattern working with the school. The second one was over here in Kapiolani. So this was the third school in 8 years. Not too much progress, I would say, but when Ms. Poindexter came to me and asked me to look into this, I was very happy to proceed, because I've been looking at this particular location for many, many years. Incidentally, I live right across the street. And the solution is to address the parent pickup and drop off and the parking. There is very, very little parking in the school, and essentially no parent pickup and drop off facility other than on the main road. And the road goes to a one-way direction during the school time to address it somewhat, but it still needs to have the parent pickup and drop off of the right-of-way on another area that's addressed specifically for that purpose. This map shows the area behind the elementary school, between the elementary school and the existing park complex in Honokaa. And it's a gravel road right now. It would be extended Bauka and parking established on both sides. The right-of-way is not wide enough to do all this. There would have to be some right-of-way, not encroachment, but well, actually encroachment into the school itself to create this entire layout. The school is very supportive of anything along this line. A lot of things that we have to work out. And the state representative is willing to pursue this from the funds from the state because this is addressing the state issue. We're asking the county to establish funds for it because it's the park on the other side. So we have a facility that's going to be basically 150 parking stalls and 200 to 400 feet of parent pickup and drop off that would accommodate the school during the school time, accommodate the park during the park time, and it sometimes is both going to be going on at the same time. I am very passionate about this project, and I just wish you would help support it and move it along and see if we can get the support from the state. The amount of funds that we're asking for is sufficient to accomplish everything that we are looking at.
Thank you, Ron. And I'll yield at this time in case any council members have any questions.
Ms. Ford, go ahead.
Thank you. Ron, I'm turning the map this way with the exhibit thing here. So my understanding is this is the uphill direction going up the map in that way. Is that correct?
Yes, that is right.
Okay. So Pacalana is a county road, correct?
Correct.
And this gravel road on the other side, is that a county road?
That is owned by, well,
I'm sorry.
It came from the plantation days. And
It's
the
an old
land was
plantation.
transferred to the state, or the state, I don't know, the state, and somehow there was a transfer to the county. This area here is county park, and it has roads in it that are
That we've inherited from the state?
inherited. Yeah.
Okay. That's a kinder word than, yeah, okay. So how do you, when I drive into Honokaa and I want to go down to the school complex, I drive from Pacalana up on the highway, right? And I drive downhill into the school complex. And I know that I see all the signs and it's one way during the school time. So this is a gravel road. Me personally, I didn't even know this road existed, so I would never attempt to go down it. But it's going to have to be paved, right? It's not going to be left gravel. It's got to be paved, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So how do you access it from the uphill side or the downhill side? Because not living in that area, I'm not familiar with it.
Well, if you go down Pacalana, it gets
Right.
the one-way street sign.
Yeah.
Go down to Mamani Street,
Where is that on this map?
the bottom,
Down here?
actually it's about an inch below the picture.
Okay, anyway,
And then turn left
Left,
on Mamani
right.
Street, go to the next street and
turn left again.
and you're on this street.
Okay, now, so somebody goes like me, this is all fixed, I go over there and I'm either gonna park to go to the park to go to the school, or is that sort of a roundabout up there? Is that what that's sort of indicating?
Yes,
A turnaround for people or buses or both?
all.
Okay, so then I go back down this little unnamed road so far, and
It's
then
got a name, but I forgot it.
okay, then I turn right on Mamani, right on something and go up to the highway. Because if this is one way during the school, I can't turn up that.
Yeah, right. Well, when you're going back down, right at the bottom of the picture,
Right,
you can either turn left and go through the complex to get back up to the highway, or you can keep going down to Mamani Street.
Got it.
Turn left or right.
okay. Now, we as a county, because we own that park, we can donate the land to this improvement for the school and the park, right? We can donate our own land to this project.
Yeah, I would call it designated.
You'd call it designating, that's fine, that's fine. And let me ask a question of Ms. Poindexter. Representative Nishihara, right? Nakashima, sorry. He's gonna be going after funds and the acquisition of this area on the school property to this project, correct?
Yes.
Okay, how much is all this gonna cost?
Right now, we were just asking a total of 4 million.
Okay.
Representative Nakashima was gonna go in for half of it, and we're gonna ask the county to match.
Okay. All right, I have one question of Mr. Ishida. So, would you identify yourself, please?
Lincoln Ashida.
Thank you. Mr. Ishida, the drawing is you're holding this in this manner so that we're both looking at uphill. The DOE is gonna have to either give us an easement or grant us a land in order for us to do this project. Correct?
I don't know, haven't looked at it.
Actually, that isn't necessarily true.
Okay.
But somewhere along the line, it should be dedicated right away.
A dedicated right away to the county. Okay, so that's gonna take some legal work with the DOE. Good luck. Okay, anyway, I like this, and this is a pickup area, so during the school hours, is everybody gonna be going in one direction uphill, or is this a two-directional road during school hours?
It is one direction going up and then coming back down. It's not a through access. It's a destination access.
Right.
So you're coming up, and then you
make the
halfway up. There's a little loop.
Yep.
That becomes a parent pickup and drop off. So
Right.
you turn around, drop off, and then go back down. And then the parking stalls on
Both
the
sides.
left side is more for the parents who want to stop, get out, walk their child in elementary or
All right.
kindergarten, whatever, into school.
So if they wanna go up to the roundabout area, can they turn around and go downhill
Yes,
at the
they
same
can.
time?
That's more for a parking for the park facility than for the school.
Mr. Ishida, do you see any legal problems? I realize that the dedicated right-of-way is gonna have to be taken care of, but do you see any legal problems in a joint operation between the state and the county in doing this? Because the reason I'm asking the question.
Can I just give you an example, Ms. Ford, of why they're, in my, I should say perception, because when we do bus stops, with the state has they own the road, and we have the bus stops, we work together on those projects. I would think there would be similarly the same situation on the contract.
Ms. Ford, you still have the floor.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussions? Okay, here no seeing none. I just wanna say, Mr. Teal, thank you very much. I know how hard you wanna get traffic off of the streets and to help, with the schools because of all the congestions that we having, and hopefully this will be the start again, because Mr. Teal did help me with, he mentioned Kapilani School, and but we didn't get this much. No, too bad we couldn't get this much money. But I mean, I'm looking forward with working with other schools, and hopefully this will be the start that the public works will kind of help you out more, initiating more of your plans about the schools, because like you say, our schools are lacking the parking spaces, right? And so that's where we need to do this partnership. Mr. Ilagan.
Thank you, Chair. I also want to say thank you because you have helped out Keone Boko in their efforts of having that traffic regarding the parking, the safety. And I just want to say this is a great thing that you've been involved with, and I just want to say awesome job and thank you for all you do.
Mr. Yoshimoto.
Mr. Chairman, this is just a point of procedure. Before all the sites site off, we do have an announcement as far as the start of the next meeting. So after you adjourn the meeting, if the sites can stay on, so we can make a public announcement.
Okay. Ms. Poindexter?
I just want to publicly say thank you for being out there with us, from, was it July? I mean, I know Mark and I met first early, maybe June or sometime, and then we called you and you dedicated yourself to the safety of our children and our families, and I really appreciate that because somebody's looking out for our safety, so thank you.
Go ahead, Ms. Willie.
Thanks, Ron. And just in terms of the big picture, thanks for helping in terms of focusing on the schools. I do want to meet with you at some time in terms of the Parker School crosswalk that I've been working on for years, and Parker School's been trying to hold out their check. I do want to say that as we look at more parking, I think the one thing in terms of looking at Parker school situation was also how can we, whether it's doing more shuttle buses and more, Brenda, hold please. And I,
Point
so
of order.
that we just.
We're not talking Parker Schools, we're on this one.
I'm not talking Parker School now.
We're talking about it.
I finished that, Brenda. Okay.
Okay.
Anyway, I just want to look in terms of other shuttle buses and that we not just look at parking as the only answer. Thank you. I yield.
Okay. Let's do a voice vote. All those in favor, in approving resolution 277-14, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. So we have 8 in favor, 1 absent, and 27714 moves to council with a positive recommendation. This, before that, you want to make the announcement? Yeah, let's make the announcement right now.
Okay, thank you. Council members, the Committee on Human Services was scheduled to begin at 1. However, the first item regarding the Senior Living Center project, which is Resolution 281, is going to be postponed. So since we're a little bit running late now, I was going to ask if there's no objections that we could start the meeting at 1:30. Because I probably only need 15 minutes for the second item.
Okay. And then so the different sites, did you folks get that announcement?
So that we can reconvene at 1:30 for Human Services Committee.
Okay, good. I see that they thumbs up, he said. Okay, Waimea is okay? You got it?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kau?
Yes, we got that.
Okay, Pahoa?
Yep, got that.
Okay, and then we got Dave. And then Kona?
Yeah, we'll be at 1:30.
Okay, good. Okay, and then in Hilo, we got that, right? Okay, so motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Okay, those opposed. Okay, this meeting's adjourned. Oh.